I've been interviewing in studios and production companies and, LA. She pronounced all her consonants. The summer I started to work there, speaking of white parties, there was this man named George Grado who was looking for a wife. He had a mansion out in Pasadena, and he decided to have a white party. Everyone who could come, you had to wear white, and we all scrambled for invitations to go. And the next day, someone was covering it in style section, and I remember this typo where he was described as a dealer in Persian drugs.
What coffee does?
One of my jobs was answering 30 phones, and I did pick up this call the next day. I just wanted to say to Bobby Schreiber that I think the only person who ever called Bobby was his mother.
That's not true.
But,
He just fell on the floor back there. Every sibling, once a day.
Georgia, thank you.
But thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
There's some other people watching. Rich Waldo, where are you? Do you want to share something
Yeah,
quickly?
very briefly. Despite my youthful looks, I actually started at the Herald in 65, late 65, and I was there till the strike. And I was in circulation. Circulation being selling it on the corner. And interesting thing about paper, because I would get the 8-star Sunset. I don't know if any of you remember that. But there were many editions in those days. And my best day was the day that my best day was Jane Mansfield's worst day. It was her last day. Yes, last day.
Quite a picture.
I believe it was about four inches, the red headline. And I was able to shout extra. It was wonderful. And sold them all. My friends with paper routes brought theirs to me. I sold theirs, and so instead of the normal 3 cents of paper that I made 10 cents a note. And the day of the strike, the day I knew there was about to be some kind of a strike. I wasn't quite sure what it was, when it was going to happen. But I went to my corner, and I checked. There were no papers at my corner. So I immediately figured, well, maybe this is it. I don't know. I checked my paper racks, and I found that they had changed the padlocks on all of my racks. So I still have my keys, and being a militant unionist, even though I wasn't in the union, I jammed my keys into those padlocks, snapped off the heads, and used the newsboy's trick of popping the rack open, took out all those papers on all those racks, sold all those papers, made all the money, and said, "Goodbye, Mr. Hearst."
We're running out of time. I'll have a couple of others. Joe Morgenstern, do you have a word for us? Stand up.
Yeah, I have to...
Excuse me, if you don't know Joe Morgenstern, I said Peter was one of the great critics. This is the other greatest critic in the world. The Herald spawned a few of them. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, Marianne hired me in '82, I think, to do, of all things, a 3-time-a-week column. I did it for 4 years, whether I had anything to write about or not. Some were good, some were bad. Barbara Anderson would always tell me whether they were bad. I would come in, and she was my, reality test. She would just go or look down and let it go. But I just want to tell you, my finest hour was when I wrote a column on the fact that nobody in LA knew how to parallel park. And I thought it was an okay column. You put it on the front page, and I came in the next morning and picked up the paper, and it said on the top of the page, a banner headline above the logo, "Joe Morgenstern, world's best parallel park."
Say hello.
Oh, sure.
This is Wanda Rudden.
Hi. Well, actually, I still have the same byline. I'm Wanda McDaniel.
I'm sorry, Wanda McDaniel.
Even though I don't.
She was married to Al Ronnie, though, right?
Yeah, I'm married. I married a guy, and this guy gave us an engagement party, and I will never forget you. It's embedded forever. A picture of you standing on your diving board with a martini glass. How Jim Bellows is that? saying, I wish you a marriage full of surprises. So, Jim, so many of the things that you did and taught me and are imprinted on my career forever. Everything is about telling a story, no matter what job you took after the Herald. And everything was about keeping a family intact and taking care of the people who loved you. And that's what we've all continued to do. I will never, and I just am about flashes of memories, things like David Israel's first column, which was Call Me Israel. So we saw a little bit of the ego to come and the brilliance to come. You gave me the opportunity to work with Clay Felker, who taught me that writing about parties was actually writing about really what people did culturally and socially, was really about what people did in that period of time, and it was very important. You taught me to walk down the road and tell Loyal Davis that you were going to have the interview, whether he wanted it or not, and that when people said no, they didn't really mean it, and to have courage, and to have a good time, and to always have $100 in your wallet, because there were always young people who were out of money, and you always gave it to me. Right. And so to just the classes act, and I would like to say I have to pay tribute to Ted Warmbold, because Ted was the one who got me out of Dallas. So anyway.
The late Ted Warmbold. We're running out of time. Jacqueline Rudy, you got some words for us?
I also slept with Mary Ann Dolan many a night on a cot in that horrible ladies' room. So I don't for those rumors, they're all true.
Herald had the greatest sports section in the world. You were part of it. Give us a very brief comment. Remember that period for us, will you?
Okay, well, I started at the Herald, and I also walked off the street, so I didn't quite have the education. I was on scholastic probation at Cerritos College in Norwalk, California. But I took time off from trying to change the world, and I stumbled into the Herald one day, and we grew up with the Furillos, and I got a job. Andy was the head copy boy at the time. I was the copy boy for a long, long time. I realized, hey, he makes good food runs, but he wants to get in sports. We don't know what he can do. Ended up getting into sports, stayed there to the very last day, and to Jim Bellows, I've learned in later life that the best way to make the greatest statement is by saying the fewest words, and Jim was certainly a testament to that. And I've always loved Mary Ann for her heart and for all her accomplishments, and it was a great time at the Herald. And my quirky story, other than the fact that I used to love busting Betty, ripping off those of us that would get too drunk and had a tab that she would add to it, was that in those days I was drinking Chivas, and I ordered a glass of Chivas. They brought back this real nice wine glass, and it was full of wine. And I said, well, what is this? And they go, well, you ordered. I go, no, I ordered Chivas. And they go, yeah, here's your glass of Manischewitz.
Thank you, John.
So I drank it and washed it down with the scotch. But it's a real honor to be here, and it's a great idea, and there are a lot of really talented, good people that are here and that have worked at the Herald that I saw when they first started, and it's a privilege for me, and there's no other place that I'd rather be right now than with you guys. So
Thank you, John. There's a bunch of other people I'd love to hear from, but I made a promise, and I got to wrap it up. But I'm going to ask each of the panelists to help me finish here. And here's the question for Don and Linda and Ron, and I'm going to answer it as well. And that is, if you met somebody who had never heard of the Herald Examiner, and you had to briefly tell them why it mattered, what would you tell them? Don?
Yeah, ask me first. Well, I think we've just seen it tonight. I mean, the affection and the love and the fond memories that everyone has. And as I said, I consider myself lucky that I realized at some point this was going to be the best time I was going to have in my professional career.
Thank you. Linda, a brief comment?
I tell them something Jerry Brown used to talk about all the time. He'd say, Herald, I like that newspaper because they put the stories in little squares and it makes it easy to read. The governor told me this, right? But they would, just the way the Herald would cut to the chase and tell people what was really